25. The more demand there is for something, the easier it is to sell. Any junkyard will buy a used car that is less than 10 years old because the parts can easily be resold. However, because there is little demand for car parts that are 10 years or older, junkyards tend not to buy those cars. Thus, used cars that are less than 10 years old are generally easier to sell than are cars that are 10 years old or older. Which one of the following is an assumption on which the argument depends?
Okay, so I want you, okay, so where are conditional statements in this argument?
The more demand, if there's demand, it's easier to sell.
Yep, okay, so, oh, so, sorry. I wish like I had a better way of doing this sometimes. Okay, so the more demand, the easier it is to sell. What's our next one? So if there's more demand, then it's easier to sell. Okay, what's the next one?
I guess the second sentence we could make it in, any junkyard will buy a used car that is less. So if a car is less than 10 years old, any junkyard will buy it?
Any junkyard will buy a used car that yep. So if a car is less than 10, then any junkyard will buy it. All right.
Then, however, because there's little demand.
So those are our two statements. So then what is our conclusion here?
Used cars that are less than 10 years old are generally easier to sell than cars that are 10 years older.
Yes, and why are we saying that?
Because it's telling us that the junkyards will usually want to buy the less than 10-year-old cars.
Yeah, because there's little demand for car parts that are 10 years or older. Junkyards tend to not want to buy those cars. Is that enough support for the fact that to say that the used cars that are less than 10 years old are easier to sell than our cars that are 10 years or older?
No, so when I was reading, I was thinking, well, maybe like somebody else wants to buy a car for their own personal use and they want it to be older than 10 or whatever.
So this argument is assuming that, what about these junkyards?
That they're the only ones buying these cars.
Only ones, or like
most.
Yeah, like they set the pace, right? Like they
Yeah.
have to control the demand.
Yeah.
Excellent. So go ahead and walk through these ones.
A, the saleability of something is not influenced by any factors other than the level of demand. I would eliminate that one.
Okay, why?
We don't know about other factors.
But okay, let's leave this one for now. I don't think it's the right answer, but I want to show you the difference between this and the right answer.
Okay. B, all used cars that are 10 years old or older are sold to junkyards. All used cars that are 10 years old or older. No, actually, they're saying that the junkyards don't want those cars.
Yeah, and no, it's not needed that all of them are either, right?
Yes. C, in general, the older something is, the more difficult. I wouldn't choose that because it's saying something and we're talking about cars, not something else.
Just because the majority of things, the older it is, that is like there's still antiques out there that have extreme value.
Yes. D, when determining the selling price of cars less than 10 years old, the lack of demand would not be offset by a lack of supply. When determining the selling price. I don't know about this one.
Okay.
I'm going to read E and see. I don't know. E, the saleability of cars that are 10 years old or older is largely a function of the level of demand for their parts. Okay.
So what is E saying?
E is saying that these cars, I guess the demand for the cars is based on the demand for the parts of the car.
Mm-hmm.
That could be the answer. The sale of the cars that are 10 years old or older. Yeah, I think that's probably.
Yeah, how would you negate E?
The saleability of cars 10 years or older is not a function.
What happens if we say that?
Then that's attacking one of our premises.
Yeah, so it's needed, right? Because that would destroy it. Because if the saleability of cars, if the demand for their parts is not what determines the saleability or is largely a part of it, then our argument completely falls apart.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I was going to point out between E and A is where I was open-minded to it for a second was the saleability of something is not influenced by any other factors and the demand for it. We don't need it to be not influenced by any other factors. And when this is saying something, so it's too strong. Where this is saying largely a function. Like we don't like, I just wanted to point that out, like the difference between those two in case you were wondering.
Okay. What did I put? I put B, all used cars. What? Why? Okay. I must have guessed. There's no way. I don't know.